Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, the West Coast Songwriters Video Vault. Please take a moment to follow and subscribe to West Coast Songwriters on social media. Check them out at westcoastsongwriters.org. My name is Mike Annuzzi. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Music Accelerator, Mike Annuzzi, and hashtag Mike at the Mic. I am extremely honored to have our special guest joining us today in the West Coast Songwriters Video Vault. I can talk for hours about DMAR's successes and bio, but I will just highlight a few. Derek DMAR Martin is an outstanding musician, music producer, songwriter, performer, mentor, the list goes on and on. Those who know also know that he is a force of nature and he is a terrific man. I have had the honor of performing on stages with him, but also there is nothing that compares to witnessing DMAR from the audience perspective. If you are from the San Francisco Bay Area and have ever had the chance to go to a major live music event, it's likely that you have seen DMAR create an unforgettable performance. He spent 17 years as the lead drummer for the legendary Little Richard. He has toured the world with many groups. He is currently a member of the award-winning band Rick Estrin and the Nightcats and continues to release his own original music. He also gives back to his community through youth arts programs and created a music education program called Drums and More. And without further ado, please welcome DMAR.
Hey.
DMAR, thank you so much for joining us today. It is truly an honor having you.
Oh, the pleasure is mine, man. Thanks for having me.
I know that you started playing drums at a very young age. Can you tell us how it all started for you, maybe leading up to your college days and music studies?
Well, it's interesting because I always say, I don't think I chose music or drums. It chose me. And my mom was an actress, and I think the first time I kind of picked up, I was, the proverbial story. I've been on pots and pans around 5, and I had beat a hole in her couch. And she was like, you know what? I'm going to have to get you drums or hurt you. So at 5 years old, I had like a paper drum set, and I played through that. And of course, then I'm playing in music schools, but I got serious junior high. I got in the band and to join the orchestra, orchestra, snare drum, and the whole deal. And had an amazing band director, Miss Jennifer Seaton, Jennifer Lloyd now. And through high school, marching band, the whole deal, just studying each and everything. And one cool thing about like junior high, because I love to play drums and music, but at the time, this was back in the 80s, and everybody was saying, oh, if you really want to have a strong future, study computer programming. It's the wave of the future. So that was what I think I'll do this, whatever. And I talked to a counselor one day, and he's like, so what do you want to do? I was like, well, they say I should go into computers. He's like, but what do you love to do? And I lit up and started talking about drums, and he was like, that sounds like what you should do. I was like, I can do that? He was like, yeah, whatever you're passionate about, that's what you should choose as a career. And from that moment on, I was like, wow, okay. And any and everything I could do, find, study, read, whatever about music or anything, the business or whatever, I digested and majored in music at Jackson State University, the marching band and jazz ensemble. And then I played in the nightclubs at night, learning on the Chitlin circuit about, that was another type of education. I had university during the day and the juke joint at night.
Man, I always hear you giving credit to your teachers, your mentors, the people that you're playing music with. It's so amazing hearing that.
Oh yeah, I had amazing, man. I mean, but you think about it, when you think about arts, particularly as a musician, it is an apprenticeship field. Like, in order to be great, you have to be an apprentice under someone else. And that level of apprenticeship never changes. Like, no matter where you are, there's always somebody, some elder above you. And that's always been my career. I've always been playing with, I played with Katie Webster, and there was Little Richard or Bobby Rush, or like I'm always playing with these elders, and each person is always teaching me something. Hey, man, you know, check this out, study this, learn this, and that never stops. And I'm like, even now, my junior high band director, we talk maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and every conversation I feel like I'm 16 again. She's like, so what are you working on now? What are your goals? What's the next step for you?
Wow.
I'm like, yes, ma'am. Okay.
That's amazing. It's truly incredible, Dimar. I know that you offer that to a lot of musicians as well. I hope that you realize that. And like I was saying, from the audience perspective, it's absolutely incredible what amount of knowledge that us musicians gain from watching you create your amazing music. It's absolutely incredible.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you.
So I do know it is very recent. I'm very sorry for your loss, and my deepest condolences with a legend who you were very close with. Would you mind sharing the story of how you became a part of the Little Richard Band?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, thank you for your condolences. Yeah, he will definitely be missed, and he's left a very rich legacy. And I mean, wow, it's the whole thing is like quite surreal because it's like he's Little Richard to the rest of the world, but like my son Michael calls him Uncle Rich, and he's kind of like my grandfather. Like we have that kind of relationship, and even after touring and he retired, like I talked to him 2 or 3 times a month. I remember one time being at Greaseland Studios recording with Kid Anderson, and I'm talking to Richard, and I kept saying Richard, and Kid's like, who are you talking to? Is that Little Richard? I was like, yeah, you want to talk to him? And he talked to Kid, and it was like Kid's his smile was this big. And of course, Richard, he was so gracious. I was like, Kid Anderson? Oh, yeah, I know Kid. I know him. But but it's, as far as how I joined the band, man, it was very tripped out. I was living in Jackson, Mississippi. I was junior year in college. I was playing around town. I had this band I was in called Infinity. A bunch of superstar genius dudes, man. And this lady, Linda Jacobs, was like managing us, and she knew Little Richard, and I guess he had informed her he was looking for a drummer. And she was like, yo, you should call this number, Little Richard's looking for a drummer. I think you'd be great. So I called the number thinking I'm going to talk to a manager or something. And he answers the phone. He's like, oh, baby, this is Little Richard. I want to know, can you play my music? And I was like, sure. He asked me if I had the Specialty Records compilation. And I didn't. There was a record store around the corner. I was like, I can go get it. He's like, go get it, come back. So I go get it, listen to the record. It's all the hits. Long Time Sally, Good God, Miss Molly, Lucille. I was like, I can play this, yes, sir. He's like, well, okay, I'm going to call you back this afternoon. This is like a Monday or Tuesday. He calls back and tells me that I'll be flying to LA on that Thursday to come out for an audition. So I go, keep in mind, like I'm in my junior year, and up till now, gigging or leaving school for a gig was the cardinal sin. My professors were like, you don't do that. You get your degree, you get something you can, some stability, and then you go do that. But I went to school the next day, and I met with all my professors. Hey, man, this guy called me, wants me to go out to LA. It's Little Richard. And they were like, Little Richard? I was like, yeah. And they were all like, hold on. They called a couple other professors in, and they told me, you have to go. Like, just make sure you have a round trip ticket to get back, but you have to go. And I was like, yeah, but I thought you guys told me. I was like, we just don't want people to waste their time, but this is an opportunity. So I go with their blessings. I get there, and I hang out, man, for like almost 2 weeks with, like, we don't play. He's checking me out. I don't realize it. But, he's talking to me. I'm hanging out with his adopted son, Danny. He's taking me to shows, to dinner, and really just kind of letting me see how great he is too. We're going around doing this stuff, and he's asking me all these questions about my family and how I feel about my mother. And I was like, oh man, I love my. He's like, oh, I love my mother too. And so after about a week and a half, we get ready to go to SIR. He had a rehearsal space where we were supposed to go and be my audition. But we get there too late, and the place is closing down. And Richard's like, oh man, you know what? Because Roy Gaines, the guitarist, was with us. He was going to play with me in the audition. But Roy owned a club in downtown, I guess in like South Central on Crenshaw. And he's like, yo, let's go over to, Roy's place and hang out or whatever. And so we go. Now, I'm not really realizing that my audition actually started the moment I stepped down, stepped into baggage claim, out of baggage claim into his car. So I've been auditioning now for a week and a half, but I don't know this. So we get into this club. It's a tore up drum set. I mean, like just old honky tonk piano, just an old juke joint. Richard sits down at the piano. Roy plugs up this guitar. Charles Glenn was there, bass player. And I sit on this drum set like it's barely standing. And they start telling stories, and we're just playing the blues. I remember this song. And so I'm totally disarmed, not knowing that this is really my audition. My guard is down. I'm being myself. We're playing. I'm like, yo, Rich, what about blah, blah, blah? Man, And I'm just clowning. And so after about an hour and a half, and all we do, mind you, is play blues songs. And Richard stops. He closes the piano. He's like, oh, man, that's great. I tell you what, I'm hungry. You guys hungry? He's like, you know what? That's fine. You got the gig. We open up for the Temptations in Cerritos next week. And I'm like, yo, what just happened? He's like, yo, and the Charles is like, yo, man, welcome to the band. And I'm still like, but what just happened? I'm like, Richard, I'm sorry, man, I'm sorry. But we didn't play any of your music. He's like, oh, man, don't worry about that. He said, I have to teach everybody. I created this music. I have to teach you what I want anyway. He said, but you got a good foot, good backbeat. You say, yes, sir, no, sir, and you love your mama. That's all I need to know. And
that's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of an amazing ride, man, on so many levels.
Man, it's just so cool hearing that, and music starts that way too. It's just so natural, and it's cool to hear that just all came about very naturally. And the music definitely it brought you to that location, and it kept you in that location. It just was all real. That's all just beautiful. Dimar, you're constantly performing, writing, recording, releasing, teaching, sharing music. Do you have any tips how to manage such a demanding career?
Well, yeah, one of my mentors, this guy, you can look him up. His name is Vasti Jackson. Amazing guitarist, producer, mentor. He's worked with B.B. King, Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, everybody. And at 19 years old, or 18 or 19, he told me, I was like, oh, I want to do music for a living. And he was like, well, if you want to be a musician and have a career, he was like, you have to wake up and punch your own clock the way you would for anybody else. He's like, you can do it. He said, but you have to wake up every day committed to becoming a better musician by practicing, studying the business, knowing copyright and publishing, writing songs. Like he just gave me the blueprint, so to speak. He's like, nah, man, it's no secret. He's like, you just have to be willing to do the work. And I think there was a period where, okay, I was gigging, and one of my other mentors had fallen on hard times and had to go to rehab. And he gave me all of his gigs while he was gone. So my sophomore year, I'm literally playing gigs every night of the week. And Vasti, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm doing it. And then he says, yeah, but if you're spending all of your time playing clubs, when do you have time to practice? When do you have time to write? When do you have time to commit to getting beyond where you are? And I was like, but he said, okay, this is what you do. Give up 2 of those nights and commit those nights to moving forward. And that's always been kind of a blueprint. Like no matter where I am, you set goals, you accomplish those goals, and then you move on. It's like I don't sit in the same place too long. Because like even the gig when I joined Richard's band, I was the youngest person in the band. So when I joined the band, I already knew. I was like, well, God say the same, and I live long. I won't be playing this gig all my life. But it was like I got the experience, and through that, I'm asking him questions, and he's taking me to meetings and teaching me. Once he saw that I was really curious about the business, I met his lawyer, Bill Sobel, and he's taking me to meetings with Al Bell, and I'm meeting Quincy Jones, and he's just, hey, this guy is really interested in the business. And I'm questioning these people. Well, how do I do this? And what is this? And what is that? And that's kind of how I'm always moving forward. And, I had great educators, and I developed the education program. I took a jazz history class my sophomore year. And part of that class was each person was charged with discovering tracing the lineage of their instrument. And as much as you could, you had to find, like, who was the first person that played your instrument. But in doing that, of course, woodwind and brass instruments, they could trace their instruments back to Europe or whatever. But what I found was that as far as the drum set was one of the few instruments invented in the United States. So once I did that history, I basically developed my education program based off of that and move forward. And I'm always developing it and finding new things to add to it or whatever. But it's just, I'm always, I guess in terms of balancing it, for me, it's always got to be working, growing, learning, participating, being educated, and educated. It sounds like a lot, but that's just kind of how I stack it all up. And
yeah, it's a very good way to constantly be on the learn and constantly be on the moving forward. It's awesome. I know, man, you brought up so much there, and I don't even know where to take this, but just with all the projects that you have going on and how in demand you are with everybody's trying to get the chance to play with you.
Man.
And personally, I remember meeting you as I was looking for a drummer when I was releasing an album in my hometown at a hometown gig. And I was very green in the industry at that time. And I was asking around, and somebody had mentioned that you were the best musician around. And so obviously I wanted to reach out to see if you would be willing to play. And I remember emailing you, asking you if you could play Johnny Be Good. And you replied to that email with an email of you playing Johnny Be Good with Chuck Berry and Little Richard on The Late Show with Jay Leno. So that was probably my most humbling musical experience ever. So what is it like being a part of these bands and playing these gigs every night as icons of the music industry?
Well, the interesting thing for me is, and this is going to sound cliche and whatever, but I don't take any of it for granted. Like, I literally approach every single gig, show, performance exactly the same. Little Richard's gig was no more important than Mike Annuzzi's gig. Every time I play, it's like, I got to be prepared. I got to come. And so for me, it's not like, that's why, because I'm not one of those guys that, like, if you didn't know I played with Little Richard, like I'm not going to, you won't know. Because I'm not going to come up and say, hey, man, I've done this. And this, because all that matters is what we're about to do. The job that I'm there to do with you in that moment. And that's just the way I approach it. And I learned something from everybody I've played with. Like the Richard thing, it was music, but Richard's thing was more psychology. Because when I got the gig, I had some older musicians of mine, friends of mine, that had been out on major gigs, and they were like, yo, man, it's hard to stay out there, but just understand. I had one mentor, Forrest Gordon, he's like, just understand that it's never personal. He was like, if you're going to stay out there. And Richard, man, like, he's like any superstar ego. They play games with your mind, and like, I was never really sure if I was really good enough to be there. It was like, well, I think, but they would all, and he told me, he was like, just when you think you got me figured out, I change up on you. And he was right. So, but I understood that my job there with him was to be his extension, an extension of him on the drums. Like if he was playing drums, like what I want didn't even matter. And that's kind of like when I'm playing with you. I'm always asking you, hey, what do you want me to play? What do you want? Because I'm curious. I want you to give me all the information. And that was the thing with Richard. Like he wasn't good at communicating, and most people aren't. Most people can't say to a drummer, I want exactly this. I've had people say, well, I want it to feel like it's purple. Or I want it to be, like the train coming down the track and slapping the corner. And Richard, man, I'll give you this story. Because this was like one of the most embarrassing, scary, and like educating moments. The night before we did the American Music Awards, where he got the Lifetime Achievement Award thing, we played some show, like 30,000 people, this fair thing. And we had been doing a version of Old Time Rock and Roll. Now, Old Time Rock and Roll is a basic backbeat rock and roll. So I'm pretty new in the band, a few years. And I've been playing this groove for months like this. But that's not what he wanted. He wanted another groove, so we started out, but he never communicated to me. He starts playing the song, and he's like, oh, he stops. Oh, no. Oh, you're playing the wrong beat. What's wrong with you? So, okay, we're going to start again. So he starts the song again, and I'm still playing the same groove. He stops. Oh, no, I think the drummer's been drinking. Oh, man, ladies and gentlemen, my drummer's been drinking. And I'm like, no. He looks at me, beams at me and said, oh, understand now, I'm serious about my music. I'll let you go. I'll let you go if you mess up my music. So I'm like, oh God. And he said, you know what? Just don't play. You don't play right now. So it's like 30,000 people. And I'm like, okay, how do I conquer this moment? So he counts the song off. I just start clicking my sticks like, it's just part of the show. And then the production manager, Wayne, also trumpet player, he comes over while I'm doing it, and he looks at me and does this for the kick drum, 2 and 4. So I started doing that. So what he wanted was me to go, oh, time, walker, boom, 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 boom. But there was no way I would have guessed that. So after the show, I'm afraid. I'm Richard, I'm so sorry, man. And he was like, oh, man, it's okay.
Oh.
So, and it's like every night, it was one of those kind of things. Like, yeah, it's like developing this skin, trying to figure out. It's like, well, I have to know what he wants, even when he doesn't know what he wants. Right. And I would always tell people, I was like, you know what? He might not always be right, but he's never wrong. And I'd be playing and, he'll skip a beat or drop a beat. And I would tell the guys in the band, hey, man, I'm going to always go with him. And a lot of those lessons I took from him, like I use with every artist. When I was doing the last 4 years, I've been with Anthony Paul Soul Orchestra and Coretta Soul Festival. And that gig is, we back up 13 to 15 different soul artists every year. Literally every year I wrote like 60 to 70 charts. You learn these songs. You go there, you have 3 days of like 8-hour-a-day rehearsals with the artist. And it's that kind of thing, like, oh, write the chart, know the song, get in with the artist. And that's the thing, is that my job as a drummer is to make every artist feel like I'm their drummer. Like, what do you want? All right, we rehearse this, but if you want to go this way or that way, just give me I'm there. My eyes are on you. If it's too fast, just let me know. If it's too slow, just let me know, But that's my job. And as a drummer, it's like I'm in the service business. It's like I don't necessarily have an opinion. I'll play whatever you want me to play. And in that situation, like I have the nuances, and I know, like every singer has a tail. Richard would use his feet and his hands. And so it's just about studying and knowing the people that I'm with. And also, not to get long-winded on it, but in college, I had a professor that was telling, I was playing, we were playing some Duke Ellington. We did the Count Basie book and the Duke book. And my professor, I'm playing one of the A Train or something, and he was like, so what do you know about Duke Ellington? And I'm like, well, he's Duke Ellington, he did this. Like, but what kind of person was he? Where was he born? What was his life like? When he wrote A Train, what was his state of mind? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, how can you play the song if you don't know this? So I was taught, like even playing with Little Richard, like I read his book, and anybody that, like you and I, we playing together, like getting to know you and who you are gave me a lot of insight on how to play with you. Getting into, how you wrote the songs and, meeting your family and, spending time, all of that gave me information on how to best back you up.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. It's so, as a songwriter's perspective too, when you're writing the song, you really have to understand the meaning of the words behind it before you could really execute the song. But also just everything that you've said so far, you're meeting with Little Richard, you're understanding your teachers, your mentors, the other musicians you play with. You really have to get to know that person and not just the music. And actually, Dimar, that's something that you kind of taught me, because when I see you play, you're not just playing the song, you're playing with the music, or you're playing the music. It's like it's a crazy thing, honestly. Like I said it earlier, but you have to have the opportunity to witness Dimar in the live setting as an audience member, because you're going to witness something that's like it's beyond human. It's absolutely incredible. Dimar, with that being said, how do you stand out as a musician and shine as a musician while at the same time just being able to back up the song as people might accept the song?
Like you said, how do I stand out? Or
how do you, like, when everybody turns their head and goes like, wow, that drummer is amazing. But at the same time, it's like you're not really doing anything extraordinary. You are killing it at that point. You're nailing the song. But at the same time, you're doing exactly what the song needs, and you're not like stealing attention from the song.
Oh,
you're
yeah. Well,
a master at that.
Well, no, I think part of what that is that I'm sincere about what I'm doing. Like, I really, really, I'm 47 years old. At 47, I love to play. I love creating music with incredible people. I love the experience. So, because even a lot of people, that's the guy that jumps, and that's the guy that does this, whatever. And like a lot of it is like, well, like, and that stuff is hard to talk about, because they're like, well, it's not preconceived. Like, I'm not going up here and saying, well, tonight I'm going to do this, and tonight I'm going to do that. It's just like, it's just what happens. And because people will say, well, man, most people wouldn't want a drummer to play with them that's going to, take the shine away from them, whatever. It's like, but no, my job as a drummer is to, how's the best word? Is to create and support love and energy in the entire band, because I'm always watching and listening. It's like, because like when I'm writing the chart, like when I learn the song, I learn everybody's part. Because I read a book, it's this book by Arthur Taylor called Notes and Tones. And in the book, he interviewed a bunch of people, and the subject of the book is the piano player Bud Powell. And he interviews everybody, Bird, Dizzy, all the greats at the time, about Bud Powell. But Arthur Taylor played with Monk and people, and in the foreword, he talks about drummers, and he was like, the most important thing that the drummer needs to know is the lyrics to every song. He's like, even if it's an instrumental, know the lyrics, because the lyric and the story tells you everything about how to play the song, what the emotion should be. And that's what I'm always being connected about, especially as I've gotten older, the more records I make, every gig I approach like a record. It's like, okay, we're creating something here. So like we open up a big intro, but if you're going to talk, then that means that if I'm playing 16th notes, now you got to talk. So now I got to create space in the groove. So instead of now I go maybe softer eighth notes, because now it creates space for your monologue to come through. And then I'm listening. So if you're telling a joke and you get to the punchline, I meet you at the punchline. And it seems subtle, but what happens is that it's a way of making it. It comes from like vaudeville and that kind of stuff, or musical theater. There's those subtleties that make people, without subconsciously, without even knowing, it's like, oh, that was a joke. Oh, I should laugh. Oh, but it's just me on the drums gently nudging a thing here or there. Or if somebody's playing a solo and I can feel the solo climaxing, I'm like, okay, well, all right, let me push him this way a little bit. Now I'm here, let me change sound sources and go this way a little bit. And the thing, like with the big band we were doing with Anthony, like we would work on these, we never really had endings. And it was always in the moment. Like the horns we playing, bip, 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 and they would call me the quarterback because I'm listening. I'm like, I got the ending. And it's like, shoot, bop, bip, bop, and I look at the horns and, cue everybody, and then everybody's like, man, how long did you guys rehearse that?
Wow.
But that's because, it's like I'm plugged in, and I'm making eye contact, and, this kind of stuff. And that's my job, to push people, to nudge people along. And I really, really enjoy that. When people talk about creating in the moment, like we rehearse. It's kind of like Miles Davis' book. Miles said, learn everything you can. And when it's time to play, forget all of it. And let the moment speak to you. And that's what I do. Like when we're playing, it's like, okay, because a lot of people get kind of tripped out because they say I'm too anal, or, man, all you want to know, read them charts. And that, I was like, no. I want to know as much as I can know, because when we play, I got this stored, but now I'm going to take what I have there and we're going to create in a moment. So yeah, I mean, I really do enjoy it. And everything you see is really me having fun, and I smile because it's just that much fun, man. And every gig is like, all the years I played with Richard, we played hundreds of shows. No show was the same ever. Whether, it depends on the room and the people in the room and how he's feeling, and he might play the song slower tonight, faster, or he was notorious for, I think when Biggie Smalls died and P. Diddy did a version of Sting's "Every Breath You Take," and Richard just heard that in the car, and he didn't say anything. He just gets on stage. Oh, I like that new record. And when he said breath, I just had to be there.
Wow.
But it's that kind of thing. We've had those experiences. We're playing and you go into a thing and it's like, this turned into something that we couldn't have dreamed it was going to be.
Yeah. And something that I have, I hope I didn't just cut you off, but it seems like something that every experience that I've had the chance to play with you, I always think you're not a drummer, you play the drums. And there's a big difference right there. And it's again, it's absolutely amazing to witness. I guess with your original music, congratulations with all the music that you're releasing now. I know you've been putting out a lot of stuff, not only with other bands, but your original music. And so how has all of that helped you with creating original music and writing all the parts and producing all the parts to sit well with each other?
Well, the thing is that, how to put this? Drums is something I do, is a part of what I do, but I am a songwriter and a producer first. Like that's the creative process like even when I was in college, I keep going back to college because I learned so much. But I remember this drummer, Freddie Waits, great jazz drummer. He was from Jackson, Mississippi as well. And they would always talk about Freddie Waits. My professor was like, "Yeah, man, when you're playing drums, you gotta play music. Like there's pitches, there's melody. Everything is about the song, everything's about music." And the more I got into writing, like I've been writing songs probably seriously since I was maybe like 18. And you talk about me being able to put out so much music because Larry Baptiste is another new mentor of mine. And Larry's like, "Hey man, where you get all these songs from?" And I'm an avid Prince fan as well. And years ago, I heard Prince say, "Hey man, yeah, writing songs is like you have to commit like a job. I write a song a day." And unbeknownst to me, when I'm a disciple of Prince, so I heard him say that, and that was when I was working with Richard. So like we were working all the time, and I literally, for about 12 years, I wrote a song a day. And what I would do is like, there are times, well, you guys know the songwriter. There are times where you're inspired, but then there are other times when the inspiration is not there, and I'm like, yeah, but I still have to finish something. And I just got good at what I realized is like, okay, well, I got good at arranging and knowing the material. So I mean the platforms, Pro Tools or Logic or whatever. So I got to a point where I could just work really fast. And even if okay, well, I'm not sure about this, but I could finish a song, play all the parts, write the song, sing the demo, start to finish, to the point like I have to keep 3 working ADATs. I still have a 4-track cassette player because I have periods. Like I have hundreds of cassette tapes of songs I wrote on 4-track. I have hundreds of songs written on ADAT that I have to be able to transfer. And then I'm constantly writing and stuff from Pro Tools and Logic. And the thing I found is the way all those things influence my playing. Because when I was playing with Vast Eye would always say, "Well, man, you have a tendency to rush when you go to the bridges." He's like, that's a natural inclination for drummers because it's stepping up, the energy's stepping up, so you think you have to rush. And then you get to the verse and you slow down, or you play softer and you slow down, you play louder, you rush. So in making a record, I'm creating parts, and when I'm creating the drum part, I'm creating the part that's best for the song. And so what happens is that from doing that, I'm writing songs and working in the studio every day. When I go to the gig and play, I play that way. Like I'm thinking about what to play that's going to best serve the song. That's why I see guys, because man, you should play chops and you should do all of that. I was like, yeah, but that makes absolutely no sense in a Motown song, or a James Taylor song, or whatever. It's just like, oh no, I understand. And then, yeah, so the production, the songwriting, and all that stuff informs my playing in a way that I think is more useful to the people I play with and to the audience as well.
So with all of the writing that you do, how do you choose which songs to release?
Well, what I've done is, like, over the years, well, everybody here is as writers, you write, rewrite, edit, re-edit, so it's kind of like, I'm a huge Babyface fan too. And Babyface talked about the ratio because he was like, well, man, everything you write is good. He was like, no, it's like 10 to 1. He's like, for every 10 songs you write, you got a good one. And I've written so much stuff that, I have stuff that I'll put like projects together. I was like, I'm gonna put this group of songs together. And like right now, I have about 5 albums of stuff that I have together. And it's been like that over the last few years. And I keep saying, oh, I'm gonna release this and I'll do that. But I did take, I think maybe, because when I put out the single New Funk, and did the video maybe 5-6 years ago, I got great, response from it. But I was looking at how the music industry was changing. So I was like, I don't really know if I should release music right now because I don't really know what's going on. I don't really know, like, if I release this, I'm not really going to be able to make a lot of money from it. And then people are not buying CDs. And so I kind of got to figure out where things are. So I just played on a bunch of other people's records and contributed in that way, learning, watching what they were doing, asking questions. Like, okay, you spent $30,000. How are you going to get that back? Or you say, like, I'm just trying to. And so what I've done now is like, I've been playing around for years and people have been after me. Hey, when are you going to start your own band? Or I heard this and this. So it's been kind of like people asking me, put out more music, put out more music. So I made a commitment last year. Like, you know what? I'm going to put out more music. And then studying the whole Spotify thing, I was producing a couple of other artists and I had a marketing person say, well, the thing now is don't release your whole album right away because it's all about singles. And this, I thought this was a lot, but it was like, well, if you have a 15-song album, you should drop at least 5 singles before you drop the album and drop each single in 3-week intervals.
Wow. And
then put the album out. And then once you put the album out, wait 3 months and then start the next cycle on the next album. And I'm like, wait a minute, it takes people a long time to make albums. It used to be that you could ride an album for at least a year. So me being now is in terms, I just have so many songs. So I've gone through and I've been able to pull stuff together. Okay, these songs make sense together for this theme and this. And then so I've just been pulling stuff together and basically just throwing stuff out and seeing what sticks. And I take a note like, oh yeah, that one got this many listens and people really like that one. So I know that, okay, at some point, that one's worth really putting some money, or a situation comes along, or, because what I do see now is that as musicians, we like to serve our ego. We create because it's in us. But when you start talking about the music as a business, and that's what people don't get, it was like, well, why should I spend or invest thousands of dollars into a situation and I'm not really sure if I can get that back? I can write songs for myself all day and be quite happy with that. But once because I think you and I have had this conversation before, once I step into the music business and commerce, now it's about, okay, who's going to buy this? Who really wants to pay for this? And so I've been kind of looking at, okay, well, who's asking for this? And just kind of putting stuff out to feel a particular demand, but also looking at like my overhead. Like I make all the records myself. I don't have to pay for studio time. I'm not pressing up CDs right now. I learned how to master the records myself. Like I went through and like all the stuff that I have to spend money on. Well, if I know how to do it myself, it's great. Sweat equity, self-investment. That's cool. Then when I'm out there and a certain record gets a certain amount of attention and is big enough, because I have had a couple of labels approach and say, well, think about a relationship or think about letting us put more behind this or that. And then getting that attention has let me know, well, you know what? I need to just keep putting my music out in the public space. So yeah, that's where I am now. And I'm constantly writing every day and trying to figure out, okay, well, like today I have a song that I actually had that I thought was finished. And like in the last 6 months, I've discovered like splice.com with all these amazing samples. And then my son is a Logic Pro and he hit me to output with Arcade. And it's like, wait a minute. So I can find all these hip drum sounds. So now like, okay, that song was actually about 5 BPM clicks too slow. But now I can get the exact drum sounds I want. Wow. The exact bass. Yeah, so yeah, it's that, it's like a nerd, you nerd out too. Like, oh, I can really make it sound the way I heard it in my head.
I totally feel you on that one. It's so funny. Like you just by the time you're ready to release it and then you got to go backwards and you're like, wait, I got to do it different. And so you're like, should I release this or should I redo it or where does it sit? And it's the constant learn. And it's having to have that motivation to keep pushing yourself forward in the direction that you want. So it's really nice to hear that from you too. And I understand your pain, but it's also very cool. I've been following your original music. You've created the new funk sound and all the new music that you're putting out now. It's awesome. I
Thank
I
you, man.
really
Thank you.
love your new tracks. Like I could hear in one of the tracks, I can't remember the title of it right this second, but I could feel that Prince vibe in there and your influence in Prince in that track.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome. So I also I subscribe and I recommend everyone to follow your social media and your YouTube channel just to see some of the awesome content that you're putting out.
Thank you, man.
One of my favorite videos on your YouTube channel is you teaching drums and percussion to children in a school gymnasium. Can you tell us more about that program?
Well, sure. The program is called Drums and More, and it's presented to grades K through 12. And I've been doing it now for about 20 years. Presently, I'm a member of Young Audiences of Northern California, based in San Francisco, which is they just celebrated their 60th year anniversary last year of providing arts programming in the Bay Area. And what the program is that I give the history of the drum set in America and the role it's played in American popular music from the beginning with traditional New Orleans music all the way to hip hop. And, we interact and it's like one of those covert things, like it's drums, but it's also history, math, communication skills, conflict resolution, discipline. But it moves because I'm talking and playing. I'm playing more than I'm talking, actually. So that gets the kids right away because the drums are all loud. But then we talk about the foundation and, just briefly, because most people don't get that the drum set was invented here in the United States and that all of the first drum set players were tap dancers because of, having to have the independence and how the drum set came to be. And so we trace it and we say, okay, this figure. And also what I'm doing is connecting all the music to let them see that everything comes from something else. Like you can trace hip hop all the way back to traditional New Orleans music, the blues, jazz. And as I'm playing, I'll play a beat and say, yeah, then you go here, and then we got this. And then the kids are like, and and I'll call names for each genre. If it's jazz, I'll say, repeat these names: Duke Ellington, Count Basie. And I'm big about that too. I'm always having them repeat things to me, say this, say that. And then at the end of it, I have kids come up and play. And I have them play by using the ability to count to 4. And that's the thing, is like, well, everything we learn is important. And if you know how to count to 4, you can make music. And they're like, really? So I'll put a child on different instruments and give each one a different number. Like your number's 1, your number's 2. And then they all play on the number, and to see their face light up when they create a part, it's like, oh. Yeah, so in the program, and what's also built in that program is mentoring. Because when I go to schools, I'll tell them, if you have a particular need or something you want me to focus on, or if you have a particular theme, I'll work that in. And usually when I go into school, like all the schools will have like their motto or something written on the wall. And I'll just work that into what I'm doing. And one of the things I tell children in every program is like, we talk about being successful. And I have them repeat after me, and it's like, success is a learned behavior. It's not something that happens to you by accident. We have a chance to practice being successful every day by having a good attitude, treating people nicely, doing our homework, just all of those things.
Wow. I love hearing you talk about music in every way, shape, and form. It brightens up my day. I know everybody that's on here is smiling on this video. It's so cool seeing you brighten everyone's day with your passion.
Well, thank you.
I just have a couple more questions for you. We will all continue to follow your musical journey, but what do you have in the works coming up? Maybe some stuff that we can all look forward to.
Well, I'm just Rickesh and the Nightcats. We still have our latest record out, Contemporary. That's still doing really well. We just did a Can't Stop the Blues show that aired that went really well. That's actually still available on YouTube. I have a new single that's going to be out on June 19th. It's called In the Face of Pain. That drops on the 19th. My son Michael also has a record that drops on the 19th called Love that we've produced, and we just did a video with Triller, and it's co-sponsored by Red Bull for that thing. You know, it's a really, really pop record. Just finished videoing. I just videoed my drum program because with all of the quarantine and stuff for the fall, we're not sure how long we're going to be away from the classroom. So I'm working on having my program transferred so it can be disseminated virtually. So I did the recording for that last week, and now I guess next week we'll start the editing so that we can figure out how to break it down into like 10-minute increments for teachers to be able to use virtually with their classrooms. So that's what's happening in the immediate time right now.
Yeah, those all sound like amazing projects. I'm so happy that everything's going great, and just with the teachings in the classrooms, I highly recommend all the teachers to pick up your program, because as a professional musician and somebody that gigs out a lot and watched you work with somebody very, very, very brand new in young age in schools, and then by the end of the day, how amazing and how excited you made everyone. It's what you do on a daily basis with your music, Dimar. It's just so absolutely beautiful to have you here and sharing your story with us. I have one last question before I turn it over to Poppy. Okay. How did you create your signature jump? Your jump. If you don't know, Dimar is like Superman and flies when he plays. He's like Superman. Flies over his drum set. Everybody knows it. How'd you create the jump?
Honestly, man, I don't really know because, well, first of all, I was a gymnast from like 6th grade to 9th grade. I was literally on the track to go to the Olympics, and I dislocated my elbow in the 9th grade. And the doctor told me, he's like, "What do you do?" I was like, "Well, I play drums." He's like, "Oh, well, you might want to do something else because you won't." He said I wouldn't be able to straighten my left arm out, and I was like, "No." So I worked, and I was able to straighten my arm out. Like I can't touch my shoulder. I didn't regain that range of motion, but I didn't need that for anything. But I could straighten my arm out to play. And so when I took gymnastics, I took ballet, and I took all this stuff. And we were playing, I was playing in a band, like the Infinity is like a funk rock band, and we would be playing these colleges and, take my shirt off and we're just playing. And at the end of the song, it's just like so fired up, and I hit the drum and I just jumped up in the air.
Wow.
And it was like, and the guitarist in the band was like, "Yo, man, that was like really cool." And it just happened naturally. And I guess over a period of time, it just kind of developed into a different thing, and it'd be like, oh yeah, how can I do this? And it just kind of, it was real organic in the beginning, and even now that's kind of how it is. It's not like I know, it's just like you kind of feel that energy and that vibe, and it's like, oh yeah, it just kind of builds up and then it just kind of explodes in that way. But yeah, I guess I'm a bit crazy. I don't know.
No, it's definitely an awe moment. Everybody that sees it for the first time, I remember the first time I saw you do it, I was playing that album release show, and all of a sudden I saw a shadow on the wall, and I thought there was something falling from the roof, and I looked back and you're mid-flight. It was absolutely awesome. But anyways, Dimar, you're always talking about feeling it in the moment and feeling the music in the moment. Thank you so much for sharing. I do want to hand it over to Poppy. She is the managing director of West Coast Songwriters, to take it for a little second here. So Poppy, join us.
Hi. Well,
Hi.
Oh my gosh. Well, we talked a little bit before this started, so I got a little bit familiar with you, but your energy is so infectious. It's wonderful. I can see why you've become as successful as you are. You have a very magnetic, driven, and humble personality that's really inspiring.
Thank you.
And, you know, talking about your wealth of mentors. And, you know, it turns out, it seems like drummers are the ultimate collaborators. You're the second drummer we've interviewed. The other drummer we interviewed was John Berger, and he drums for Broadway. He also volunteers doing youth theater percussion work all over the 5 boroughs of New York City. So I find it fascinating that this seems to align so well with what you're talking about. And there must be something in the drum personality that is driven to give back and keep pushing. And also the same type of personality of like, just so happy to be doing this. I don't know what to say other than I look forward to getting to know you better, because I'll definitely be reaching out, because there's just no way that I can't. I'm really curious more about the youth projects that you're doing, as West Coast Songwriters is definitely looking into more youth programs and getting you involved in songwriting and music, and community oriented is really a focus of mine. So I would really like to talk to you outside of this and find out more about what you do.
Oh, let's do it. I'm very passionate about music education, because that's the way I learned.
Right.
So always, and then the misconception, and not to belong, but a misconception, I think people always say that those that do teach, and so what do they say? Those that can't teach, and those that whatever I don't believe that. I always say, well, no. The best teachers are people that are actually doing the thing. It's like being able to teach, all the stuff I learned, because I'm always learning stuff. And I find ways of like, I can now impart this, whether it's if I'm playing on a TV show, because I also do it for universities. I have a master class I do for universities. And a lot of that is kind of teaching. A lot of things that Mike and I used to talk about music business and, how to actually make a career. But a lot of guys are graduating from colleges, but they don't have an idea of.
There you are.
They don't have an idea of how to really make a practical life or practical success. And it's simple things like how to prepare for a gig, or what time you show up, professionalism, and as far as drummers, I can't tell you in terms of education. I tell people 90% of the work I get has nothing to do with me being able to play. I get hired because drummers will call me and say, hey man, look, the gig is next week. You got to learn 20 songs, no rehearsal, and I don't have time to listen to this stuff. I was like, well, if you just send me the music, and if that's it, I'll just write it out. And I tell people, like, being able to write charts and be intellectually sound about what you're doing is so important.
Got to be a planner. Then you can roll with the punches, right? If you've got a plan, you've got a map, and then you know what to expect, and you know where you can play with things.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I like, in terms of imparting those things to students early on.
Be prepared, and then you can play.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Damar. I know we're almost at time. Do you have a moment to say hello to Larry and Pete, who are on the call here?
Of course, they're on the call.
They are here. All right, Larry, do you want to jump in and say hi? You can unmute his mic here. Larry, are you there?
You're muted.
I know. Can you see him?
I see him.
Got to unmute your mic.
I have to click that.
There you go.
Hey!
Hey, hey, Damar, it's such a pleasure to hear you. I love you, and playing with you doing those festivals and all that stuff. All what you're saying is that you've got the biggest ears. You're every artist's favorite drummer because of your dynamics, your sensitivity, because you know all the lyrics to the songs. I don't know how you do that, and I don't know how you remember, because it's really so much more than rewriting a chart. And I know that you're prepared, but, you just have a computer up here, besides all the technical stuff, it's just having those big ass ears of yours. You know what I mean? And so I just enjoy you. And it's the reason why you're such in demand. and
you,
everybody wants you. It's crazy. How much time do you actually spend preparing for? Because you don't have that much time. You're in 30 minutes.
Well, you know, we used to like anything. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like it's kind of like, remember the gig we did at I think it was the Willie gig and Power. No, it was like Noel's gig, the gig with all the bands. And
Yes.
Power Valley and I was supposed to split the day.
Right. Right.
I remember Paul got sick.
Yes.
Anthony called me at like 9 that morning, and I was supposed to be there like at 1. And he was like, "Yeah, man, can you play?" So I had to add charts for like 3 artists, but I literally wrote all those charts in like an hour.
Yeah. You know, it really comes down to those big ass ears you got.
Well, yeah, you know, you
Listening-
kind of know what this is, you know.
Yeah, but and the one thing I want to say to you, where's the book? You know, this is the book. It's several books. You know, one is your story on all your playing and the Little Richard stories and all that. But you have a music education book. You know,
Yes,
also. So anyway, it's all good. Thank you
yes,
so much.
sir.
I just
Point
really
taken.
appreciate. I just appreciate hearing you speak, and you brought light to a lot of things, like a lot of the questions that Mike asked you. You know, I was thinking, you know, golly, how do you put all this together, and how did you work out combining the performance with the gymnastics, and you know, how did that come about? You know, all those questions, you know, were in my head, and Mike just, you know, he tightened that up for me.
Well, thank
So I
you, man. It's so good to
appreciate
see you, man.
and I love you, man, and we'll
I
talk
love you
soon,
too, man.
okay? All right.
For sure.
Yeah, Larry's on our board, and he's been around West Coast Songwriters a long time. He's a great contributor, and now we've got Pete Summer here. He's the VP of our board.
Hi, God, this has been an education, an inspiration, and I want to pre-order your book. So you got, okay, that's just all. And you know, I want to thank you for being here, doing this, and sharing your wealth of knowledge, and bring
Thank you
back the
guys so much, man.
Grandel.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
You
Yeah.
got it.
And I'll be reaching out, and we'll pull Larry into it too. We'll do something. We got to do something.
Hey, you got it.
All
Yeah,
right.
sounds good to me.
Awesome. And I'll let Mike close it out. Thanks again, Damar.
Thank you guys so much.
So I guess that all being said, I call you Demar. Emphasis on the D.
Yeah.
I heard people calling you Demar and Demar.
Huh?
What is it?
Man, I'm not. It's either or.
All right. All right. Well,
I know what all the branding stuff is supposed to be with it. But yeah, it's just, as long as somebody wants to say my name, I'm happy.
Hey, just call me.
Yeah, just call me.
call
Whatever you call me. You call me. You can call me Larry. Just call me.
I love it. And I call you Demar. I always have. And Demar, every show is important. Every night is completely unique. It's different. You are one to go with the flow. And again, it has been a true honor having you on today. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your music with us. I can't wait to see you,
so much,
my
man.
friend. And thank you everyone for joining today's West Coast Songwriters Video Vault. If you have any ideas for upcoming shows in the Video Vault, please do send comments our way, and we will see you at the next one.